Are each of the top 100 feet or so, and that's where you can scuba dive safely, and that's why everybody knows about those. And it turns out coral reefs just keep on going and going and going and going. They don't peter out until about 500 or 600 feet. So there's a whole layer of the ocean from about 100 feet below sea level to 500 feet or so that no one really looks at very much. It turns out that might be incredibly important as coral reefs are getting warmer because of climate change, but also the waters in the ocean are getting slightly more acidic. Because part of the CO2 going in the atmosphere, a little bit of it dissolves in the ocean's water, forming kind of carbonic acid and making the upper layers of the ocean slightly more acidic than they otherwise would have been, which can dissolve reefs. So reefs are going to be in big trouble, but it turns out maybe if those surface reefs get warmer and colder, some of the creatures that live there might be able to migrate down a little bit lower where it's colder and more alkaline, perhaps. But very few people can go there. So it turns out there are about 10 scientists in the world who've ever been to those reefs. 5 of them now work here. And more people were in the moon in the Apollo program that have been to these reefs. That's how unusual this is. What you need to go down there is you basically need the same equipment that you put in a spacesuit. You need what's called a closed-circuit rebreather, where you're breathing the same air again and again and again, and it scrubs out CO2 and puffs in additional oxygen, keeping up with your metabolism. So it has computer controls, and it's saying, oh, you consumed a little oxygen, so add more. You breathed out some CO2, remove that. But it's actually easier for astronauts because they can actually store nitrogen in air and oxygen.
Pressure problems.
Yeah, but the pressure problems that we can't have that much nitrogen in the air, so they have to breathe helium. What's called a trimix closed-circuit rebreather system, which is insanely difficult and kind of challenging and dangerous. So it's very rare, and the only people who normally do this on a routine basis are the military, and like oil and gas explorers do this. But the working scientific community, there are very, very few people trained to do this. It takes at least 3 years of training to do that.
Do you know the furthest down that they've gotten?
Our team has gone down almost to 600 feet, in the 500s. Now below that you can still go, but then you need a submarine and submersibles and that kind of stuff. The submersibles are lousy for going through coral reefs because they're too big and they could knock into the reefs and damage them. So I don't think submersibles, until you get small underwater drones maybe, which people are working on, until those are that small and nimble and can kind of skirt around things about this big, you don't want submarines going down to these coral reefs. They'd probably destroy them. So that's making us now kind of the leading institution in the world in exploring this whole layer of the ocean. And we just got funding from some major donors to embark on 20 expeditions over the next 5 years to these unmanned coral reefs, which would be about 10 times more than the whole world has ever done before, which is pretty cool. We've actually started to bring back animals from that death and alive, which is really an interesting trick. And one of our aquarium engineers invented fish decompression chambers, which nobody had ever done before either. And it was really funny. It's I guess we could, if we were the federal government or someplace, we could have done that. It would cost $1 zillion and several big beltway contractors to make it. He did it for a few $100, getting stuff basically you can find at Home Depot. And he totally MacGyvered the whole thing. He adapted basically household water filter systems that with industrial strength seals and valves on them, and he just kept on tinkering with these until we found one that could hold that pressure of 600 feet water column. And what you do is put a fish or an animal in that container, it's 500, 400, 600 feet, whatever, and seal it, and it'll be at that pressure. You bring it to the surface, it's still that pressurized. And we slowly, over weeks and weeks and weeks, adjust the pressure so that the swim bladders and the fish can adjust to the new pressure, and they can live now at the surface if they have about a month or two to adjust. But if you did it instantly, the fish would explode. The 3 things we're tackling over the next 5 years will be, the scientific challenge will be we only know about the top 20% of the reef. There's 80% we never looked at. That could be instrumental.
I never knew that. Of all the science shows that I've watched, I have never, Jacques Cousteau never once said that.
So there's a lot more about reefs we don't know, and that 80% might be crucial to how they adapt to climate change and more acidic ocean and overfishing. We don't know. So we won't know until we look. So that's really, really important, just scientific breakthrough that we want to make in the next 5 years. We're going to rewrite the book of coral reefs, I think, from those discoveries. But the second one is if we want to restore the corals that are dying during more motion events. Right now, you can take a cutting of somebody's coral in one part of the world and try to transplant it somewhere else, but you're doing it manually with a scuba diver with an epoxy gun underwater for an hour to restore something with the size of a postage stamp. And that will never scale.
John likened this to trying to replant a rainforest by planting one tree at a time. As you would expect, this isn't the best way to go about it. However, researchers are working on developing alternative methods. John talked about how many people forget that coral are animals, not plants, and like the birds and the bees and many other animals, they reproduce sexually, in this case through a process called spawning, which is where the eggs and sperm are shot out into the water for fertilization. Unfortunately, in the wild, this only has a survival rate of around 1%. However, by bringing the fertilized eggs back to labs, researchers are able to have a 99% success rate of the eggs surviving. In a lab setting, researchers are able to grow the coral into tiles that can then be used as seeds, being spread into the ocean in mass quantities with the hope that they will attach to reefs or rocks and continue to grow on their own.
So this is one of the coral areas we have where we're growing coral reefs here, for example. So we're always growing corals. You see some fish in here too. This is where we might take a cutting from a coral at another aquarium or somewhere else and grow it under these kind of lights, especially that even before. We used to have much larger facilities for doing this where we built that entire large coral reef, which is the largest in the world. So this is kind of fun. This is an example of how you grow corals in laboratories. So we can grow them under numerous different kinds of conditions of light, temperature, salinity, and pH to kind of see how they'll do. This one's kind of fun here. These are amazing animals.
Oh, man!
These are called leafy sea dragons, yeah. And these are called potbelly sea dragons. Now here are the leafy ones up top. These are extraordinarily rare. There's only one human being in the world in Australia that's allowed to collect these and sell them to aquariums, and he only gets a permit every couple of years to do it. These usually cost between $10,000 or $20,000 a piece. We're trying to see if we can breed them in captivity. So here we go. You see the chambered nautilus down there?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's just resting right now. We're taking him out.
Alright, so Heather and I are just now leaving the California Academy of Sciences. It's Heather. It's Heather, in case you forgot. But yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much, John Foley, the executive director, for giving us our tour today. It was incredible. I said awesome and cool about 757 times.
Add a couple more zeros for that.
Yeah, but it was just because there were no other words that I could think of off the top of my head. I was like a little kid in a candy store, just in awe of everything. So thank you, John, so much. Check him out on Twitter. I will include a link to his Twitter in the description. Check him out. It's just, and check out California Academy of Sciences. I will also include their social media and website stuff below. So totally go check them out, especially if you're in San Francisco. And oh yeah, I got Heather a shirt.
Can I show my new shirt?
I got Heather a shirt. Yeah. Never trust an atom. They make up everything. It's amazing. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay well, stay awesome, and I will see you next time.